Hey everyone! Welcome to the Mom Plus podcast. If this is your first time here, my name is Celeste Leslie Charles, and I am the creator of Leslie's World, which is a lifestyle and mom life blog. And I also am the creator of the Mom Plus podcast. So if you are familiar with the podcast space, you know that you never get to see me, you never see my guests, but we are switching it up a little bit today. And we are super excited about that. So this is our very first video podcast. And basically, the Mom Plus podcast is really a place where I come to empower, inspire, and encourage other mothers by way of interviews with other mothers. We're going to get into this beauty right here. We're going to get into her in just a minute. But yeah, I just basically interview other mothers who are really pursuing their passions and their careers, just to let the mothers of the world know that you are a mom plus so much more. The Lord gave us the amazing responsibility of being mothers, but that's not where it stops. That is not where it stops. So this place is a place where you can be inspired. But before we go any further, you guys see these lovely drinks we have here, right? Okay, we have these lovely. Y'all see it? You see the colors and the little lemon on the side. Come on, take a sip. Take a little sip. Woo! Okay, so I'm gonna ask. I know I didn't introduce you formally yet. We're gonna get into that. But Nao, can you just tell the people what we're drinking?
Okay, so this lovely beauty, I have an infused berry lemon water, and y'all, it tastes so good.
It tastes mad good.
It's so good. I love it. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And then Celeste over here now y'all know Celeste loves her Aldi's.
Oh yes, I do.
Loves her Aldi's. So Celeste has a sparkling water. It's a brand from Aldi's called Bellevue. And Aldi's, if you're watching, sponsor this video.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Within her drink, she also has berries and lemon as well.
And it is delicious. And also, just a little shameless plug, every Monday at 8:30 p.m. on Instagram, I am at Leslie's World. We do a little Mom Talk Monday.
Yes.
Where we talk to the mamas. And I always do a what you drinking segment because I want to know what you're drinking. I know the kids are kind of driving us crazy sometimes. And sometimes we're drinking something light, like our little berry infused lemon water. Sometimes we're not, okay? You know, we don't judge over here. We don't judge the mamas. We don't judge. But
That's right.
Hit me up Mondays, 8:30 p.m. at Leslie's World so you can tell me what you're drinking. And if you're drinking something right now, leave it in the comments below because we want to know what you're drinking.
That's right.
What you're drinking.
That's right.
What you're drinking. Okay. Okay, so without further ado, I obviously have this amazing young lady who is in front of me. Oh God, I have known Naomi for probably 10 plus years now, right?
Yep.
10 plus
That
years.
sounds all right.
And she is family, like literally family. Blood couldn't make us any thicker. Legit family. But I'm not going to ramble on because I really want her to introduce herself. So, Nao, please introduce yourself to the fellas. No, not fellas, to the ladies.
Yeah, definitely not to the fellas. My husband would not appreciate
All
that.
right.
But to y'all ladies, no, I'm just kidding. I'm Naomi, like Celeste said. Celeste, first of all, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of the podcast, having me on.
Of course.
The podcast, it's definitely great to just be able to talk to moms, encourage other moms. I'm a new mom myself.
Yes.
New mom. My little baby is 3 months.
3 months.
And he's so cute, and his name is Levi, and he's already doing the most, and I can't with him. He's amazing. I'm married. I'm 26, I think. Yes, 26, turning 27. And I've been married for 4 years, just turned 4 years. This past July, we made 4 years, and I feel like that's it. I think we're going to get into a little bit more about me as we go on. So you guys are in for a treat because one thing I am is I'm very transparent, almost to a fault.
No.
My husband definitely said to me, oh man, our business is going to be on Front Street. And so be prepared for all the openness and transparency and all the good stuff that's to come.
Yay. So that's Nao, guys. And you're going to see she's like the sweet. I just look. It's my girl. Okay. Anyway, let's get into the chit-chatting. So let's talk about your journey to motherhood. I do know that we do have similar stories. And if you're not familiar with my story, because I'm not going to talk about it today because it's about Naomi, because she's the bomb. But check out the Mom Plus podcast. Episodes 1, 2, and 3 really give you a solid foundation for what the podcast is about. And specifically, episode 2 is where you can hear my story. So when I say that we have similar stories, you'll hear why. But please tell us about your journey to motherhood.
Wow. Okay. So where do I even start? Well, it started when I was just a little lad. No, I'm joking. I guess we can kind of go back to like 10, 12 years ago. Like maybe 16, I want to say. 14, 15.
Okay.
At that point, I started to realize, really my mom, she would ask me like monthly, like, oh, did you get your period? And I'd be like, no. And then like I'm Haitian, by the way. If you have a Haitian mother, you know she looking at you when you say no. Like, what you mean no? And I'd be like, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm not. And she'd be like, no. No. So at a point, I realized she was kind of like clocking me, but I think she was clocking me to like be like, what's going on here?
Right.
But then eventually it was kind of like, no, for real, like what's going on here? So she took me to see a doctor, and I remember my mom. I remember they asked her like, oh, do you mind if we talk to her privately? She was like, no. Why? You don't need to talk to my daughter alone. She's not doing anything. And I was like, oh God, this is too much. But yeah, so we went to a doctor, and to make a really extremely expensive, long process short, they ran some testing and they found multiple cysts on my right ovary. And I remember being like, well, I don't know what that means, and I guess I don't care. You know, at that point, you're not really thinking about it. And I was just like, oh, whatever. That's what it is. And we went back several times, did multiple tests, and did a whole bunch of things. And at that point, the doctor was like, yeah, you know what? It's looking like, you know, you probably don't care right now because I didn't. Right. But she's like, you know, in the future, it's going to be difficult, almost impossible to bear a child. And I was like, whatever. So in my mind, I'm just kind of like, all right, I mean, you know, cross that bridge when we get there. There were some other things that were going on. There were some issues with like hormone levels, and there was some issues with the way my uterus was facing. They were like, yeah, all these things, you know, it's going to be kind of difficult. And I was like, whatever. You know, at the time, I was in a relationship with like this guy that was like really older than me, or not really enough older. And I was kind of like, yo, he's not gonna care. Like, you know, at that point, I was like kind of entertaining, like, oh, are we about to like, you know, if I can say this on the podcast, are we at that phase in our relationship where we're gonna
say it all?
Say it all.
I
was like, you know, are we at that phase in our relationship where, you know, we're like about to have sex? Like, is this gonna happen? And then in my mind, I was like, wait, so this kind of like a free pass to like do what you need to do, because Hold on. The chances of me getting pregnant are like slim to none.
Oh God.
That was literally like, I can't make this up. This was my thought process. And I actually like, this is all a part of the journey, to be honest. But I remember there was specifically a night where I was like, all right, tonight's the night, can't get pregnant, you know, whatever. Like, this is going down. We're doing this. Like, tonight's the night. I was like, can't get pregnant. Tonight's the night. We're doing this. My Lord. And I really believe like the Lord had his hand on me. Like, seriously, the Lord had his hand on me, because I think it was like, and in my mind, I'm such a hopeless romantic. So I was like, oh, it's Valentine's Day. And, you know, at this point I was like 15, maybe 16. I was like, oh, I'm 16 and it's Valentine's Day and he's so experienced and da da da, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, then I remember, oh man, if you're watching this, this is going to be weird. But I remember he had a brother-in-law that was in the military. So his brother-in-law was like away or whatever and was like, yeah, just house sit for me. So I was like, all right, cool. You know, I went, got the keys, set up everything all nice, whatever, blah, blah, blah. So also at that point, we were kind of like, it started becoming regular where like he was abusive, like just physically abusive. And so, and it goes to show, like, ladies, think about the root of why you're in that toxic relationship, because I could not I didn't understand, like, yo, why am I still here? But like I'm going to the hospital to get stitches or like, you know, like getting marks, burns, like just different things that were happening. But in my mind, I was like, can't get pregnant. This is it. You know what I mean? Like, and so I remember him coming back and him kind of like one didn't get me anything for Valentine's Day. And I was like low key tight. Like, what is this about? And then I think we got into like some disagreement or something happened. And I just like, this guy's like 6'2". I'm sitting down so y'all can see how short I am. I'm like 5'1". So just imagine this 6 foot dude like just putting his body weight to body slam on the floor. And I remember being like, I was about to give you some. Like just being like upset. Like, no, like you're ruining
Still thinking about it.
Yeah, like you're ruining the romance. You know, like this is so annoying.
Goodness.
And so long story short, it did not happen that day. Or actually it didn't happen ever. I actually ended up waiting till I got married. But the Lord's hand was really on me. So that kind of transitioned me to meeting my husband. I ended up going to Life Church, where Celeste attends. Yes, I ended up going to Life Church and I met my husband there. And at that point, I had went to a doctor's appointment. I was 18 at that point. They were like, "Yep, okay, the cysts are growing a bit bigger," and I was like, "Okay, I think I care now because I think I'm with somebody that like I know is gonna be my person." So they were like, you can take birth control and it'll regulate it and things like that. And I remember having a conversation with Sam. That's my husband's name. Hi, boo, if you're watching. I remember having a conversation with him. I could literally remember the block that I was on. I was walking around my area. And I remember talking to him and I was like, what are we doing? Like, what? Mind you, we're probably like 3 months into this relationship. And I was like, what we doing? Like, where are we going? Where we at? And Sam is 3 years older than me. So I think at the time he was 19, 20, 21. Still got to count on my fingers. 21. And I was like, yo, what are we doing? Like, what? Yeah.
Where are we going?
Yeah. Like, what is actually happening? And I remember him saying, like, eventually I want this to, like, lead to marriage. And I was like, great. Now that you have said that, I need to let you know something. And I remember it being, like, the bomb of bombs. And him just being like, okay. Like, me saying, look, this is what doctors are saying. They want me to take birth control. I don't really know where I stand with that yet. So forth and so on. And him just saying, I'm going to be with you no matter what. And we're going to believe for a miracle together.
Come on. And
I was like, oh, okay.
There's the romance.
Like, yeah.
There's the romance. She got her romance.
Crying. Just like, okay, like, all right, I have someone that's like in this with me.
Yeah.
And I remember he was like, yo, I'm not really comfortable with you taking birth control. And I remember my mom being like, just take it if it's going to help and it's going to regulate it and blah, 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 blah. And me telling her like, no, I'm dating this guy and he feels, and she was like, nah, y'all know, Haitian mothers. She was like, what? This guy? Blah, blah, blah. Like at the time she hadn't met Sam in like the formal way of him being my boyfriend. She knew him as like my friend.
Right.
And so she was like, no, this is not the one. No. And I was like, okay. But longer story short, I ended up not doing the birth control option. And I think maybe 2 months after that, I literally got my period for like 2 months straight. Like just 2 months straight pain each time. Like just pain every day. I couldn't go anywhere. I like would call out of work often.
Wow.
It was terrible. And then like it was just a lot of what was coming out was like the sizes of like baseballs. And it was just painful. And I remember I was like, I can't. Like one day I think my mom was like, you have to go to the hospital. Like I started like kind of like passing out, like in and out. And she was like, all right, we gotta go. Yeah.
A lot of blood loss.
She's like, we gotta go somewhere. So we went to the hospital. They ended up saying, okay, you need a blood transfusion. Like this is not stopping.
Wow.
And so I remember I stayed there for, I want to say a day. I was admitted for like a day. They gave me the blood transfusion. I went home. I felt a bit better. And then at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to take like a birth control pill. Like I have to. And so I think I took like one and it ended up immediately stopping. And that was that. And I was like, okay, all right, these are some things to consider. And after that, I was still pretty irregular. Fast forward to 2015, I got engaged, I think. Yes, 2015, I got engaged. And I remember talking to the Lord, like, you know, at this point, Sam and I were going to see different doctors at this point. Like, okay, what's going to, you know, be the thing or whatever. And each doctor said the same thing at that point. It was just, yeah, this is... I mean, you guys can try, but we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I love how involved he's been in this journey, by the way.
From day one.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
It's beautiful.
It's crazy from day one. And so I remember we went to see a doctor and they were like, yeah, pretty much, you know, the same report that you've been getting is the same report. And I was like, okay. So fast forward to 2015, I remember having a conversation with Sam and just saying like, yo, I don't know. Like, at that point, my faith wasn't at the place that it is now. And Sam was like, well, I have faith enough for the both of us, and this is what's going to happen, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, go somewhere with your faith. You know, whatever. Like, do what you need to do. That kind of thing. And he was like, no, I think this is going to happen for us. I know it's going to happen for us. And I was like, okay, well, you know, whatever. Go with your faith. And, you know, do what you do at that point. And I remember, it's funny because back in, I think, 2013, I had gotten a word from someone. They were like, yo, I think your, like, issue with, like, your menstrual and your blood is all connected to, like, you and eating red meat. And I was like, nah, bruh, that's actually not fact. Show me where that is, like, medically. Like,
give me the ribs.
Yeah,
give me the steak.
I was
what
like,
are you talking
about? Not happening. And I remember being like, okay, whatever. So fast forward to 2015, I got so sick. I probably was sick for like 2 weeks. I had, I think I had like either like a steak sandwich or something that had to do with red meat. I got sick. Like, I mean, sick as a dog, sick. And I was like, oh my God, okay. And I have like weird food associations. So if I get sick from something, I'm never having it again. Like, it's not happening. So from there, I think I cut out all meat. Like, I was just like, okay, if one thing will make me sick, everything will make me
all
sick.
Of it.
So, or maybe I cut out, I think I just cut out red meat. Okay. And then slowly I started realizing, like, I was praying to the Lord and I was like, you know, God, I need you to like intervene. I'm about to get married. I want to be able to like tell when my period's coming. I want to be able to like have these kinds of like moments within myself where it's like, all right, I know my body.
You know your body. Yeah, I get it. Mm-hmm.
And after being sick, after that prayer, stopped eating red meat, and my period came monthly.
Wow.
And it came monthly. Wow. Still comes like clockwork.
Wow.
Still know my body enough to be like, oh, okay, like this is, you know.
That's incredible.
Yeah, like this is about to happen, that kind of thing. And it was, the beauty of it was that was the year I got engaged, and the following year we were getting married. And I remember like feeling like I don't want to be in my marriage like always like, am I pregnant?
Yeah.
Is it? Like, you know, I want to be prepared for whatever is to come, you know, like I just want to know. And so I remember when it started coming monthly, I didn't even realize. I think Jan, who's my best friend, shout out to Jan.
Hey Jan.
I think one day she was like, yo, your period's been coming every month. And I was like,
how about that?
I was like, first of all, how do you know? And I don't know. But I was just like, wait, what? And so I remember like kind of scrolling back because I was taking note at that point and scrolling back and being like, oh my God, it really is like coming like clockwork.
Look at that. Wow.
And so that was like a beautiful thing. Fast forward now to marriage, I start feeling sick again, like just nauseous all the time, just sick, like just sick all the time. And so we go to a doctor. I think this is like 2017, 28. Maybe, no, I'm lying. 2018, 2019. Okay. And yes, 2018, 2019. And we go to this doctor and going through all these tests of my gut and all this stuff. And finally it comes back that I have like all these ulcers on the lining of my stomach.
Okay.
And so I'm like, all right, well,
this is the most, actually.
I'm like, we done dealt with one thing. Why is this next thing like happening? And he was like, yeah, you know, you have a case of Crohn's disease. And I was like, okay. me.
Yeah.
And so, funny enough, like we went through that process. It was like a whole process. And so we go to a doctor's appointment, and the doctor's appointment where he said that I had Crohn's disease, he was like, "Hey, are you guys trying to have like kids anytime soon?" I was like, "Well, yeah, but," and then Sam was like, "No, yes,
Okay.
we're trying to have children." And I was like, "Not now, but like, you know, at some point or whatever." And he was like, "Okay, you know, with Crohn's disease, a lot of women experience like miscarriage like frequently." And he was like, you know, he had listed some different medical reasons as to why and things like that. Certain medications that I couldn't take because we wanted to like, you know, have kids and stuff like that.
Right.
And I remember just feeling so defeated. Like, I'm getting emotional thinking about it now. Because I remember leaving there just feeling like, yo, we tackled one thing only to get here again. Like, this doesn't make sense. And that night, Life Church was actually having a prophetic conference. And if you don't know Pastor Nate, he's an amazing guy, prophet, man of God, amazing.
Absolutely.
And I remember he called out like, you know, there's someone here with ulcers on their stomach. And that was the same day that I had found out. And he came and he prayed for me, and it was like, all right, I'm believing. Like, this is what's happening, you know? And sometimes I feel like this happens. Like, you leave, like, the atmosphere is so charged that you leave believing. Like, you're like, yeah, I'm good. And then the first sight of, like, pain, you're like, oh, man, it didn't work. It didn't happen. And you resort to Advil or Tylenol or whatever. That's what I did, y'all. Just being transparent. I was like, oh, no, I feel nauseous. Let me take this medication. And Sam was like, but I don't understand. And I was like, no, I believe, but and you kind of get into this place where you half believe.
Yeah.
And so I kind of half believed. Like, I was like, all right, yeah, woo. Yeah. Then the first time I was like, nope.
And that's natural. Like, the Bible talks, I forget who, Peter, Paul? One of the
Look it up.
one of our guys in the Bible. You know, I believe, but Lord, help my unbelief. Yeah. And it's just like, it's part of life. It's part of life, but we overcome.
Yeah,
but we overcome.
That's it. And that was literally where I was. I was like, okay, well, this is what it is. And I want to say fast forward, maybe that, I think that happened in 2018. Fast forward 2019, he came back again to Life Church, and he was like, you know, I have a word. Oh, it's funny. He was walking. So the way the sanctuary was set up was that you walk through these back doors, and then like the pastors would kind of walk to the right hand side and like go to their chairs. But he came to the left hand side, and I was sitting next to, I'll never forget it, my husband was on the end. I was next to him. Next to me was Jan. Next to Jan was her husband, Matt. And so he came to the four of us, and he was like, the Lord specifically gave me a word for all four of you. And I was like,
wow,
no. I don't need a word. No. Like, you know, whatever. Like, just being like, I think maybe I was going through some like weird stuff in my life at that point, but I was like, I don't need no word that's about to correct how I feel, Lord. You know? And so he gave Sam his word, amen, woo. He gave Matt and Jen their word, amen, woo. Then he called me out, and I was like, Pastor Nate, what do you want from me? And he was like, you know, what you don't, he said something like, what doctors are saying to you about having a baby isn't true. Like, you're going to get pregnant. And I just remember, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it felt like the whole room just went in tears. Like, it felt like everybody just started crying. I know I was like bawling.
It was a moment. Like, it was definitely a moment. Like, it
was just so real. And prior to that, actually back in 2018 when he gave that word about the ulcers, Celeste, I think you were pregnant at the time, right? Yes.
2018? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. You were pregnant at the time. Mel was pregnant at the time.
Yeah.
If you don't know Mel is dope. Hi, Mel.
Yeah.
And Pastor Nate's wife, Christline, was pregnant at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the three of them were taking this nice little belly picture. And I don't think like, or maybe it was 2019. I might be mixing up.
No, it was 2018 because I had Kaden. In 2019.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, 2018. So they're taking this picture, all these cute little ladies with their pregnant bumps. And I was like, oh, I'm going to jump in this picture too. Like, I'm about to be pregnant.
I'm going to see if I can insert it. I'll see if I can get it inserted into it so y'all can see. Because it was so random, but we were just like, hey, like, come on in.
No baby in sight. Let me tell y'all, I was not pregnant, not one bit. and I go and stick out my stomach and hold my hand with my little like 1 month pouch, and I'm like in the picture just standing there. And I remember that day being so significant to me because I was like, no, like I'm gonna one day like be in pictures like these with pregnant women. Like this is it. And so after Pastor Nate gave us that word, I was convinced. I was like, well, Lord, let's go. We're doing this, like, let's do it, And I think that was in March. I had my son. No, yeah, so that was 2019. 2018 we took the picture. 2019 he gave me the word. I think that's what happened. I hopped in that picture because after he prayed about the ulcers, I was like, now we're going to have babies.
Right.
Like, that's what's going to happen. So 2019, he gave the word about me having children, which was more specific to what was happening in that season. 2018 was about the ulcers and kind of where my faith was. Because I was like, well, ulcers, no children, like that kind of thing. Right. And then 2019, I feel like the Lord was like, no, you need to give her like a specific word about kids. And he gave that word. Sure enough, he gave that word. And he gave that word in March. I had my son the following April of 2020. God. Yep. And that time was crazy. It was exciting. I mean, it was rough because in the beginning, I was like, ooh, having a baby, like this is great, but and I'm pretty sure she wouldn't mind me saying this. I hope not. But at the time, Jan and Matt were, trying as well, and some things weren't like, panning out and things like that. And so I remember being pregnant, but still feeling so guilty. Like my friends are wanting this to happen for them. Oh, I get emotional thinking about it. And I remember after telling them, just crying, like crying for them, really, like, okay, like, God, you made this miracle happen, but okay, you need to do it again. That kind of thing. But that season taught me a lot. It wasn't a very long, well, to me it didn't feel long. To them it's probably like a long season. It wasn't a very long season for me because Jan and we had it. I'll never forget it. I was driving somewhere and we had the most open conversation I think I've ever had with anyone in my life, where it was like, look, this is hard for me, but it doesn't have to affect what you tell me. And it was a very real, transparent conversation between friends. And that really brought me to a place of like, okay, let me breathe. Because I wouldn't, like, still to this day, sometimes she's like, you aren't this tired. And I could remember myself being like, don't complain about being tired. Or like just not saying certain things because I didn't want it to affect her. So then she got pregnant. Then it was like, all right, free for all, like that kind of thing. And it was a beautiful journey up until the last trimester, where actually the beginning trimester was rough too, because they had told me that I had 2 or 3 subchronic hematomas, which are like blood clots. Oh, God. So for the first 3 months, and they had to see like if the pregnancy was going to be viable, all this stuff. So I had to go through all these testing. And for the first 3 months, your girl couldn't get it in.
Wait, for real?
For the first 3 months, the whole of the first trimester. Wait, let's be clear.
You could not have sex?
No form of it. So shout outs to my husband, because some people would be like, got to go. But because they were afraid that it'll rupture, it'll cause bleeding, it will do. So I remember sitting in the doctor's office, Sam, when the doctor said that, Sam and I looking at each other like, so nothing? At all. And that was a hard part, because I didn't want my husband to feel like I was rejecting him, but I also didn't want to feel rejected either, or feel like this little bundle that we've been waiting for is now causing like this rift of like intimacy. So we did the most we could, like, to still stay intimate, like touches and hugs and kisses and all that stuff was, great. And then the second trimester, we were like, all right, we're in the clear, we're good. Third trimester, I was having a lot of Crohn's flare-ups. Like, it was bad. And then third trimester, we hit a pandemic. And it was like, woo, COVID, yay! This is exactly what I wanted for my first child that I've been waiting so long to have. This is great. And the pandemic hit, and that was probably one of the most difficult times of my life. I'm a social person. I had a lot of events lined up at that point. Like,
Yeah.
Celeste will tell you, I sometimes tend to do the most.
The most.
And
all of the most.
I was like,
every bit of the most.
Yeah. A lot. And, you know, for me, I was like, yo, I'm in my 3rd trimester, but I'm going to be good up until my son was due April 17th. I was like, by April, like, I think actually the Friday before I was set to give birth, I had like an event lined up, and I was like, okay, we're doing this. Like, yo, my feet ain't swelling, let's go. Like, you know, like that was my whole kind of perception of it. And so I remember when the pandemic hit, it hit actually the week of my baby shower. Yeah. And my baby shower was literally the last event that could happen, because the following weekend New York went into like shutdown mode. Yeah. And I remember being like sad, not sad, but like, wow, like obviously people wanted to be safe, so not many people came out, but still feeling like, wow, people loved me enough to sacrifice, like, you know, potentially getting a virus, like this is great. But also being like, wow, okay, like this pandemic is real.
It's real, yeah.
But also feeling like, yo, it's gonna be over by the time my son comes. Like, it'll be fine. And it was not. Yeah. And we're still living in it now, you know. But he was set to, you know, come April 17th, and I remember at maybe like the end of March, because my sister also was pregnant at the same time. So she gave birth 3 weeks before me. And at that point, they were already like, okay, Dad, you can't leave and come back. And there's no visitors. Yeah. Okay, cool. I could live with that. You know, as long as my husband can stay, I'm good. Mm-hmm. Then we transitioned to husbands can't be in the room. And my heart, I literally every day just felt like anxiety. Like I was just like, oh my God, okay. I would cry. I would just be in this mental place that I didn't want to be in, about to like birth this little miracle. Yeah. And I remember just praying. I remember like petitions were going out, all this stuff. And I remember praying. And I remember one day Sam and I prayed, and I was like, God, enough is enough. Sam's gonna be in the room. Enough is enough. Yeah, literally. I was like, no, he's gonna be in the room. And we opened our email from like one of the petitions, and it was like, yay, we got it passed. Like, dads can be in the room. Wow. There can be a support person. And me being like, okay, like, all right, we're gonna be good. But what we didn't realize was there was like hospitals were kind of, I guess, playing with the verbiage of like what Governor Cuomo had said. And so it was like, oh, you could be in the room, but you got to go home. I bawled. So it was I was like, I was like, no, you're going to miss like the first night of his life. Yeah. And, crying, right? Like just crying, bawling my eyes out. And fast forward, I started feeling contractions. I was like, all right, this was April 14th. And fun fact, April 14th was also like an ex of mine's birthday, and I was like, you are not coming on the 14th, like telling my son, like, you better stay until 12:01. And I was like, no, it's like, not this day. And Sam was like, really? I was like, tomorrow, come on, tomorrow. And I started having contractions. I was good for the most part. I was good. I was like, all right, well, let me get in the shower. I took a nap. I was like, all right, you know, I'm fine, whatever. Got to the hospital. Sam could not come upstairs with me. I had to wait in the triage to see if I was going to be admitted. Yeah. And they were like, yeah, you're going to be admitted. I was like, okay, cool. And so I probably labored by myself for like the first 10 hours, 10, 11 hours in like this triage, cold room. The toilet was overflowing. It was like a weird, I felt like I was in a movie. Yeah. And so finally he gets to come upstairs, and he's like ready to help. He's like, all right, what can I do? And I'm like, just stay away from me. I'm just trying to sleep. I did this for 11 hours by myself. Like, you know, just stay in the corner. And he was like, all right, stay in my corner.
Whatever you want me to do.
Yeah. And so, you know, at that point, we were a little concerned because prior to that moment, I thought I was going to have a C-section because my son was breech. And then he flipped last minute. Like the day I went in to find out if I was getting a C-section, he flipped. And I was like, okay, Levi. Perfect. Yeah, I was like, good. And so we were always kind of concerned that he would like flip back or like try to just do his own thing. Yeah. And so Sam was in the room, and I labored for about like 26 hours, I want to say. Yeah, like 26 hours. Finally, my son comes, and it's the craziest experience because Sam is in the room, and I'm like, all right, you know, at a point they had to like give me something to like thin out my cervix. And at that point, I was like, it's probably like hour 20, maybe 21. I was like, stick this epidural in my back.
I can't take it no more.
I was like, no. In the beginning, it was fine for me. It wasn't like, everyone is always like, contractions are the worst. For me, it wasn't. I just kept telling myself like, yo, my body's going to do this and you're going to do it. Like, you're just going to do it. And at that point, I was like, stick this epidural in my back. You can do it, and then you can do it with some drugs. And we got the epidural, and I remember feeling like, I remember being in our room, because what happened was they weren't sure that I was going to even have a room to deliver in. So they were like, okay, you may have to give birth in this triage room. And I was like, this is horrible. It's cold and it's dark. And I just remember feeling like, yo, just get me out of here. Just let's have this baby so I could go home. And we ended up getting a room like just in time.
Good.
And I remember laying down and being like, I have to go number 2. Like,
this is during
labor.
The labor.
Yeah, I'm like, I have to go number 2. And Sam's like, so go. And I'm like, no, call someone, whatever. And then just so happens my doctor was coming in at that moment, and she's like, all right, let's check how dilated you are at this point. And she's like, oh crap, his head is out. And I'm like, no way. Oh my God. Like, I was supposed to push. Like, no. And she's like, all right, mom. And in a matter of seconds, there were like mad people in the room. Wow. And she's like, just start pushing. And I was like, amazing. What? And she's like, oh, wait, one of your legs isn't up. And she had to pull up the other leg. I was like, oh gosh. And it was so crazy. Like, Levi at that point, and it was pretty scary throughout because he flatlined at a point. Like, they were like, okay, we can't find his heart rate. Like, we got it. So I was hooked up to so many different things to monitor his heart rate, because that whole time he was just dipping. And you would hear the machine go off when he would flatline. It'd be like, bah, 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 and I'd be like, he's dying. Like, oh God, I'm so scared. And so when he decided, all right, enough playing games and I'm just going to stick my head out, I was just like, couldn't let me know.
Levi's living his best life.
He's doing
whole
his thing.
Mommy is going through the most, and he's just like, I'm going to do it at once.
Right, how about that? So Sam was like, literally, he looked down and he was like, his head is literally there. Like, you have to push. And she was like, if you don't push, he's gonna suffocate. Like, you have, because that's how far he had gotten himself out. And I guess maybe I was kind of like pushing because I felt like I had to go.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay, here we go. I pushed twice and he flew out. Wow. And that was it. And it was crazy. He had meconium. It was just so many things happening. And
what a journey.
It was beautiful.
What a journey.
It was beautiful.
What a flippin' journey. Can I say that? I can say
yes,
what I want.
Yes, you can.
What a flippin' journey. Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Okay, so you obviously went through the very most, and we're all very happy that Levi is here, because now you're like a mom.
Yep.
Like she's part of the Mom Plus community, guys, because she went through all of the most. You got all the credentials, like tick, all the credentials. So now you're a mom, and you've been a mom, you said, for 3 months.
Yes.
3 whole months, which is amazing,
months.
beautiful.
Yes.
In the middle of a pandemic still, because this is still going on. Mm-hmm. And okay, so now I want to transition a bit to talk about your purpose, career path, your passion, because as you guys heard from her own mouth, she does the most, the very most. And I was the absolute, it's like annoying the most, but it's amazing the most because she's doing her thing. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I know personally, and I personally did not even ask her these questions. Like, we're really good friends, like legit. But I didn't ask these questions because I wanted to hear, I wanted us all to hear how you are managing now with a child. And so I should ask straight out, are you working now? Because I know that some people aren't. You are working. Yeah. Okay. So how have you been transitioning from, newborn stage, home with your child in the middle of a pandemic, and now transitioning to working again? Like, do you feel like personally you're saying to yourself, maybe I shouldn't do as much? Or is it just like, now I got to do what I got to do? Like, this is my passion, because passion drives you,
That's so true.
Children drive you, but passion is, So what is that transition looking like? And you can also share with us, like, what you do, tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, man. Okay. So I guess so much to start or go through. Like Celeste said, I can admit that there are times where I do the most. During my pregnancy, I definitely was doing the utmost. And but I love what I do. And part of what I do is I'm an event coordinator. That's like my little baby. I love it. And during my pregnancy, it was great. You know, being an event coordinator, working on like, you know, different things and stuff like that was amazing. You know, I think my first trimester we did our fresh oil conference, which is amazing, and that was great. And I remember actually at that point Sam had just lost his job, being in my first trimester, and I was just like, cool, this is happening. And so it's kind of like event coordination, and then I was doing booking and like kind of artist management for a couple of different artists or whatever. And
planning events,
doing that, and
booking, and all of the most, and wifing,
you know, doing that. And when it came to like doing booking for one artist in particular, she travels a lot, and so we would be traveling to different gigs and doing all this stuff. And I remember being maybe close to the end of my second trimester, and her being like, yeah, like come to Nashville with me, and me being like, I'm pregnant, but like, okay, like let's, you know, do it. Why not, you know? So I remember like, or maybe it was the end of my first, honestly, but so I do booking and artist management, and that's literally my other baby, and I love it so much, and it's great. So those are the two main things that I was doing prior to the pandemic. And once the pandemic hit, if you work in the event industry, you know that probably is one of the industries that took like a major hit. So, you know, I was kind of like, okay, you know, all right, what's gonna happen? You know, like my income does play a part in our, you know, in our home. And so we, you know, that hit was hard, and it's still hard. You know, not many events are happening right now to be like, oh, let me just go plan this event. You know, there are virtual events, which, you know, are different. Part of me, and there are probably going to be other event coordinators that watch this that are like, girl, you're crazy. But I was telling my husband the other day, like, what I used to charge for events and things like that, I don't even feel as right doing that for a virtual event.
Virtually, okay.
Because I feel like part of me could just tell you, hey, order this. And like, I'll just come in and set it. You know what I mean? Like, part of me just doesn't feel as right. Doesn't mean I won't do it. But part of me, depending on what you need, you know, part of me just doesn't feel as right about it. I think everyone is, you know, hitting a different time financially too. And so I'm a big part of my purpose, and I know this is, it's so funny. My pastor one time called me and said, I, you know, got a word about your purpose, and I feel like you're a surrogate. And I was like, the irony is that at that point I thought I couldn't have children, so I was like, irony, you know. And he was like, you know, you're a surrogate. And when he said that to me, it really made sense. Like, he was like, you're a vision carrier for those that can't carry vision for themselves or see that full process through. That's what you do. You're that person. And I remember being like, no, I'm not. And then after a while, like, if y'all can't tell, I'm rebellious. Obviously, the Lord is still working on me. He's dealing with me. But I remember thinking to myself, like, yeah, that's it. And I gave this analogy to my husband last night. I said, part of me really knows that the Lord has called me, and it's going to be a funny analogy, but the Lord has called me to like people who are partially blind, not literally, but figuratively. Like, maybe they can see the outline of their event. Maybe they can see like, all right, I think I know what colors I want, and I'm the person that comes in and goes, okay, let me shade it all in for you. Right. And so I think that's really like my purpose. I love that. And passion. Honestly, I love to see people win. I want to see the growth in everyone. I love that. So that's that. So that took a hit a bit during this pandemic. And then when it came to like the artist management and booking and things like that, the one artist that I'm working for, she's still doing what she's doing. And then the other two really have kind of taken a step back, you know, during this season. So that's been cool. But then I recently, like before the pandemic, I was kind of in talks about this position, but it didn't become official till during the pandemic, which the Lord is faithful and good like that. But I recently became the VP of A&R of a record label called Bridge Collective.
Come on!
And that is like my dream position. Like, It's just everything.
God.
So yeah, so I recently did that, and that's great. Look, follow the Bridge Collective, and it's actually a record label that I don't know, many of you may know, but Naomi Milord and another producer named Gary Coach, they started together, and it's amazing. It's amazing. It's a record label of a collective of different artists as well as individuals, and you know, we all just believe we're bridging the gap between like gospel and secular. So you know, we're working on some things, so look out for that. But that has been amazing. That has kept me super busy.
Beautiful.
As well as, you know, just other things at church. So the work doesn't stop. The busyness hasn't really stopped. My husband is building his brand and business, so we're on the go. We're on the move here,
so
people.
How are you doing all of this now with a 3-month-old? Because we know that the infant newborn stage is, I mean, maybe not the most hands-on, but maybe is the most hands-on.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot. Like, and even to transition from like no children, you know, to a child. So it's like even the dynamic between you and your husband. Like, I'm sure that at first you and him working, it's like y'all doing y'all thing. You know, you're working, doing your thing. But now you're working from home because nothing is open.
Yep.
You're working from home. You're still working, doing it. Not, oh, that sounds okay. Maybe doing
or
it.
that.
I know. Doing
and that actually.
Okay. That's part of her job description.
It is. To throw back that booty. It definitely is. That's part of the job description.
I didn't mean to go there, but you know what? You better fulfill your job description. Okay,
you gotta do it.
Okay, so she's throwing back that booty while simultaneously. Well, I don't know if you're okay. I'm gonna.
He's gonna so kill me for that.
Okay, she's doing her thing.
Yes,
in every area. Of life,
every area,
including momhood.
Yeah.
So what has that looked like?
I mean, I think that's been like the roughest part, maybe. Like having a newborn, like, you know, when it comes to the record label, we meet weekly. So it's like there's a certain time out of my day that I'd like either pray he's sleeping or like pray he's not hungry for. And then when it comes to like things that I've been doing at my church, we also have like different meetings throughout the week too. So it's kind of like, it's been interesting, you know what I mean? Wow. So honestly, Levi is a really good baby. Like and I'm not saying that just because he's my son, but like he's a really good baby. If he's fed, that boy does not need nothing. He's very much so into the conversation that's happening. So like if we're in a meeting, he's like,
what y'all talking about?
Yeah, like staring all around, and then if it gets silent, then he goes, da, 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 and he'll just start talking. And I'm like, bro, it's not your time. Hold on,
he's like, I need to be part of this also. Okay.
Yeah, like, and honestly, the transition that has been, when I say the hardest part, it's because you just want to be with them 24/7. You know,
yeah.
My husband went back to work, like started taking clients again, maybe after 4 weeks.
So
you know, we trying to get them coins, you know, during this pandemic.
I hear that. Absolutely.
You know, he went back after 4 weeks. So that was hard because then he would have him at night, but I couldn't really sleep. So during the day, like he would start at like 8:30. So I would have him for the whole day, and I'd be like, and you know, honestly, I encourage you, like if you're doing it with a partner, like, you know, parenting with a partner, lean on them. Because at a point I was like, I can't do this from 8 to 6. Like I need you to at least, there has to be like an hour lunch break. I need like a minute. Yeah. You know, and we had that conversation and it was great. Good. Now we're in a groove. We figured it out. We know what's needed. We communicate all the time.
Come on, communication.
Shared calendars. We have a calendar on our wall where every morning we wake up and I'm like, oh, that's happening today. Okay. Yeah. Like, you know, let's figure it out. You know, that kind of thing.
That's good.
Because obviously during the pandemic too, it's hard with like family support. Because your family's concerned, you have a newborn, you know, so we haven't really had like much family, like my mom, his mom, like that kind of thing, are immediate, like be around Levi. But we know that there's so many friends and friends who are family that would be like, drop him off, like you know, like let me take him for the day or whatever. And it's just been a little like rough gauging that and kind of figuring that out. It's been hard. But other than that, it's been pretty good. I want to say, like, I wouldn't say it's been easy. I would say it's been good. Like, also just being honest with the people you work with. Because I was like, look, there's going to be days where y'all might see my face on this call, where you might not. Depending on his mood, like, he comes first. And so, I remember Sam and I, we had a conversation about we don't want to be parents that put money and working before our children.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't want that. If we all got to live in, like, you know, a 2-bedroom with our 4 kids or whatever, if that, we want to teach them that love, family time, love, life experiences are all way more important than the financial aspect of, like, we need this big house with a pool and a mansion and 50 rooms and this and that. And not many people agree with that, but that's kind of our take on life. We want to just make sure you're good. You know, if we get more than that, we're bring it on.
Yeah,
you know,
course,
we get less than that, we're looking at the Lord like, hey, we got less than that.
Do your thing,
but
Lord.
you know, when we are at a place where it's sustainable and we're happy, we're good with that. We don't want to overwork to be at a place of like, okay, we got millions in the bank only to die and, like, you know.
I think you said something really, really vital. It's important to have your priorities in order. And it's like you can be, and what I love specifically about you is that it's clear that your priorities are in order, but you're still able to go hard for your passion. And I honestly think that that is the way that the Lord created it to be. It's like your kids come first. Well, I shouldn't say your kids. The Lord comes first.
Yes.
You know, actually, I heard somebody say this and I actually loved it. The Lord comes first, you come second, because you have to be able to pour into yourself. Self-care mamas.
Yes.
Self-care.
That's important.
And then your family, the head of your family being your husband, and, you know, if you have a partner, and then your children, and so on and so forth. But it's like when you have the priorities in order, there's a grace that's able to flow. So you can go hard, and it should never be the case where it's just like, well, I can't do what the Lord has placed in my heart, or I can't do this hobby, or I can't do because of my kids. No, darling. No, you gotta, if you set the priorities right, you'll be able to fulfill your passion. And with that said, actually, I ask all of my guests this same question. I want to make sure I say it right. Okay. What advice would you give a mother who feels like she cannot pursue her passions or her purpose because of motherhood?
Wow, that's a loaded question.
It is.
But before I answer this question, I definitely feel to just for a second go back to what you said. I think it's important for moms to really understand the importance of self-care.
Yes.
For sure, it's important. But also I'm a person that is very self-reflective. If I'm going hard in something, I'm like, wait, why am I doing this? I think you have to ask yourself that question sometimes. Sometimes, like, I realized that I was doing too much. All because I love what I do. Right. But also because I was trying to prove something to myself. I was trying to be like, well, although I'm not doing a 9 to 5, I'm still getting money here. I'm still pretty busy because I have this and this and this and this and this. And I needed to feel like, when it came to the friends that I do have that work 9 to 5s, that I'm doing just as much as them, or I have a right to say I'm tired. You know what I mean? Like, I think if your passion and your grind really is rooted in, this is what I'm called to do, this is what I love to do, and you kind of throw away the opinions of other people,
come on,
it feels more, it's easier. You're flowing more than when you're trying to do it for other people. Because when you're trying to do it for other people, you start tainting everything else. It's like, oh, well, then if she sees it, it's going to be like this. And if he sees it, then it's going to be like this. And if da-da-da, and if blah, blah, blah. It starts to become a very murky place. So all of that said, I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, throw it all. Did y'all catch it? I hope y'all caught it. We're throwing it in there. I hope y'all caught it.
Just throwing that little bit and piece in there. But my advice, I guess that kind of does tie into my advice. My advice is to always ask yourself, like, why? Like, what is the why behind what I do? And I know for me, for being a new mom, I've had to have a lot of conversations with myself and say, so-and-so may not like you after this. And so-and-so may not talk to you after this. Right. My husband and my child comes first. Yeah. They come first. And I had to be honest and say, you know, I had a situation recently where someone was like, oh, are you available to, like, be a part of this thing or whatever? And I had to have a conversation with my husband, like, yo, we need to look at, is this safe? Is this okay? Yeah. We have a newborn now. Yeah. Where the old Naomi would have been like, oh, man, well, I don't want them to be upset, or I don't want it to feel like I'm the party pooper or whatever. Let me just go with it, knowing that I was uncomfortable. And so after we spoke about it and we spoke to the person, they were like, yo, just say that. Like, I'm okay with that, you know, like, that's fine. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, I'm just trying to figure it out, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think, sorry again, Celeste, the question. What advice would I give to new moms, right?
Mm-hmm. Who feel like they cannot pursue their purpose or their passion because of motherhood?
I would say get that out your head. Get that out your head. I think it's easy to tell ourselves we can't do something. It's easier to say we can't than it is to say we can.
Yeah.
And I think that for me as a new mom, because the thing that I want to be careful about is my advice may not be for everyone. So I'll say this for myself. What I had to do was, if you're doing it with a partner, lean on him and say, look, I want to be super mom and I want to be super wife. Mm-hmm. It may not work out that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also to really challenge yourself. I think something that I've been learning, is if you set a small task for your day, it makes it easier to get everything else accomplished. So for me, a small task is like get up and make oatmeal. Like get up, make some oatmeal. It's good for milk production if you're a new mom. Get up, make some oatmeal, and there are days where I do it. There are days where I don't. And by the time I'm eating, it's like 2:00. But it's like I have to challenge myself in small tasks. Yeah. And then it starts to feel like, okay, as you've accomplished that for the week, the next thing, throw something else in there. Because now you're in a routine of that thing for the week. Throw the next thing in. And you'll start to see like, oh, I'm kind of in a groove. Yeah. But the biggest thing is don't become hard on yourself if you miss a day.
Yeah.
You miss a day, you miss a day. Yeah. Like, the world is not, you're not going to fall apart. The world isn't going to end. Your main priority is your child's son or daughter, twins, quadruplets if you have them. You know, that's the main priority. And don't be so hard on yourself. I think we have, as regular human beings, we have a negative lens when it comes to ourselves. And I think a lot of people sometimes view themselves in a negative light, so you're already starting behind everyone else who's starting at the start line, right? If that makes sense.
Just because of your perspective, your mindset.
Yeah, your mindset, your perspective. I think you have to really shift the way you see yourself in order to succeed at being a new mom and pursuing purpose and passion. I think it starts inwardly.
I love it.
That's that. Yeah.
I love it. So guys, we're basically done. But I do want to give you guys the opportunity to follow this beauty because she's doing the most. She's doing the most. But it's amazing stuff, and she's definitely somebody who you'd want to connect with. Yeah. So if you can let everybody know, where can they find you on the World Wide Web?
Okay, on the World Wide Web. On Instagram, you can follow me at nay.ooh me. MEE3. So yeah, that's nay.o.me and with 3 E's. And in case you didn't get that, because it's confusing, because I confused myself, Celeste will probably link it somewhere.
I will put it in the description box. If you are listening to the audio of this, I will put it in the show notes, so you can definitely go ahead and follow Naomi. And if this happens to be your first time here on my YouTube channel, please be sure to subscribe. Make sure to let me know what you're drinking. Okay, let me know what you're drinking. Follow me over on Instagram at Leslie's World. Remember, every Monday at 8:30 p.m. we do Mom Talk Mondays, so definitely come through there. And if you have not listened to any of the other podcasts, please be sure you can go on Apple Podcasts, you can go on SoundCloud, and you can actually find the audio alone on YouTube as well. So you have a bunch of forums. You have homework to do, okay? You got homework to do. But all in all, thank you guys so much for taking the time out to listen to this amazing interview and just share your time with us. We appreciate it. And before I go, just make sure that you always remember, you are a mom plus so much more.